Hi, my name is Linda Cirulli-Burton, and welcome to this channel named Above the Battleground ACIM. Above the Battleground is based on the teachings of a spiritual self-study path known as A Course in Miracles. I've been a student of A Course in Miracles since 1992 and recently have felt the desire to have the lessons and the insights go deeper inside me, and then perhaps they will be of benefit to you as well. Today, I realize that the topic that I'm dealing with, judgment, is one that I have to revisit on a regular basis, and also that I have sort of a sensitivity to the topic, being that I have always been a very judgy person. A judgy person who is very quick to criticize. If it doesn't come out of my mouth, it's definitely a thought that I've chosen very quickly. Can be very, very condemning, very threatened if you challenge the rightness of something that I'm saying. So in essence, I am a judger. I guess I'm a judger. So what does it all mean? Well, it means I am playing in the ego world. I am drawing lines between you and me, or between my group and your group. This is what I'm doing. And when I do that, I am guaranteeing that I am keeping myself separate from the love of God, keeping my identity as Linda sacrosanct. So there is some sort of understanding in this ego world that there's such a thing as good judgment versus bad judgment, or right judgment versus wrong judgment. And what I've noticed is that a lot of times it is really based on external enterprises. So, for example, what external to me is in my face and shouting the loudest that I have access to? So, is it the media that's telling me what's right and what's wrong? Is it ranking lists? So I want to see what do people think of this restaurant? What do people think of these doctors? And oh my gosh, and don't ever let me forget, what do people think of me as a teacher? Oh yes, those ranking mechanisms that are out there on the internet, right? Are those dictating to me my judgment calls, right? What about educational institutions? What about parents? What about movies? What external enterprise is shaping my judgments? Well, for starters, I need to say that judgment is very, very fluid. To give you an example, all right, my grandmother, that generation, I'm going to tell you now, that generation, you didn't live with someone in an unmarried state. You got married. And when you got married, you didn't divorce. And so my fabulous grandmother made a mistake with her second marriage. And she ended up having a breakdown, put into a mental institute, which they had at that time. We would visit her every weekend. And 7 years after she had been institutionalized, her husband got a divorce from her, and she signed the papers for her release. But hey, she didn't divorce him, and she didn't live with him before she got married. Then you come to my generation, okay? Major split. You had a very radical split. Okay, so here were the women who chose to marry and have children and be stay-at-home mothers. Then there was this group over here. I'm going to be a career woman. And I'm not going to lie to you. I was so scared of marriage that I decided I could not marry until I knew that I could take care of myself. So what's interesting is that there ends up being judgment calls on all choices. And you know, one of my sisters married at age 19, had children, and was in one of those spectacular loving relationships until he passed away at age 60, much to the pain of all of us. So, right there. Then another generation, you live with them. Maybe you marry, maybe you don't. Maybe you have a child, maybe you don't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're married, and it doesn't matter if there's anyone on the scene. So there, and then you make different decisions, and everybody does judgment calls on everybody. It's just fascinating. Okay, what about geopolitical judgments? I love this one too. Having being a student of history and having taught history, so the perspectives of the American government, the judgments of the American government versus the judgments of the Russian government versus the judgments of the Chinese government or the EU governments. What the geopolitical breakdown of judgments, what constitutes good, what constitutes bad. I mean, things are really kind of crazy right now, right? Okay, so what about, so we've got that judgments are absolutely not consistent. I mean, they seem to change over time. They change, they're always changing. Here's another thing. How many times have you thought you were absolutely right and you weren't? You were absolutely wrong. How many times does it happen and you don't even know it? We cling to these judgment calls. So let me give you an example from me. I once was doing a talk in front of an audience where, nobody had a reaction on their face. Nothing was going on. Honest to gosh, I left that group going, my gosh, this went terrible. And then the evaluations came out. They were like the best evaluations I'd ever gotten from any group anywhere. And you never could have told by the way they were looking. And then what about this? I go for an interview with two men, and it was just, I thought it went really great. We parted with, they were going to have me come by for dinner. It was all wonderful. And then when I tried to reach them after it, and left messages multiple times, and nobody called me back, I went, I don't think it went as well as I thought. Duh. So you see, trying to figure out if you're right or wrong. And then when you're judging another person, analyzing another person, my gosh, you would have to know so much about the person, their past, their present, maybe what their future was going to be. I'm telling you, good luck with trying to analyze another person. Is it nature? Is it nurture? I don't know. What can we tell? I don't know. But I have made a million mistakes in that arena. So, judgment is definitely symptomatic of the ego world. It swirls and it twirls. And mostly we are not aware of the immense burden that judgment puts on us. In A Course in Miracles, in the Manual for Teachers, in a section called How is Judgment Relinquished? Here are a couple of passages that really struck me. Make then but one more judgment. It is this: there is someone with you whose judgment is perfect. And that, of course, is the Holy Spirit. And the more comfortable I become going to the Holy Spirit, the greater help I receive. The only judgment that really makes sense, and this is in the mind of God, is the one that says that everyone in this ego world is either extending love or looking for love or a release from fear. That's what's going on. And when I look with the Holy Spirit and Jesus at those desires to judge, I become less judgmental, more like it fades, because in the presence of absolute total compassion and love with Jesus, with the Holy Spirit, I can know that you and I are not enemies. We are brothers, and we are on this same journey. And we're all going to be together again So thank you for joining.